Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 39. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Friday show, Dave. Whenever the Steelers play again, they will be playing the 4-3 Cleveland Browns as they beat the Denver Broncos in a Thursday night game last night, despite not having Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Baker Mayfield. Dearness Johnson running well for Cleveland. They kind of back up your running backs are fungible theory, and the Browns will be 4-3. Although who they'll have to play in that game in Week 8 is still unclear, but they'll be about 500 when they take on Pittsburgh.
You know, I wasn't focusing none on Johnson being an undrafted free agent or nothing like that.
I think the first time you're hearing about it.
Right. I just, to me, I occasionally glanced up at that game last night. I paid no attention to an undrafted running back out of the state of Florida rushing for 146 yards on 22 carries and a touchdown, and also catching 2 passes for 22 yards. Blew right by me. It gets into that. I tell you, it gets into that. It plays right into that fungible talk, though, does it not? Sure. And look, this nothing moving forward. Everybody tuned in and said, "Oh, here he goes railing on Najee Harris." No, I think Najee's a fine back. I think he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do for the Steelers right now. But it's you see instances of that, and the kid down in Jacksonville and around the league. It seems like 2 or 3 because of injuries or whatnot. You always see these kind of undraftable guys pop up. And yes, the Browns blocking scheme and run game coordinator and offensive line played outstanding and all, but all those things go hand in hand together. And if you're of the mind that, well, look at the line he was running behind, well, maybe there's a little bit of some answer in there for you as well too. You know, on top of it there. I put this, man, if I ran, and people always say, well, Dave, what would you do? And I a lot of times my response is, does anybody really care what I would do? Because none of it matters what I would do. It's fun to talk about and all like that, I guess. But every year, Alex, I would sign at least 5 undrafted free agent running backs. And not only that, I would give him, as high as signing bonus as I could. And then, we've had this talk about the Steelers before. They don't partially guarantee any part of the contract with undrafted free agents. I'd partially guarantee some of that first year money for them to even make it even more enticing. That way I can kind of get my cream of the crop of you, if you will, of the undrafted guys. And I would every year I'd bring 5 of those guys in, and not only that, I would scout the living snot out of the rest of the undrafted, rosters around the league for those back end kind of rookie running backs, if you will. Now, is there a reason guys like Najee Harris are drafted in the first round and guys like Johnson are undrafted? Absolutely, there is. But those guys, in my opinion, are out there. And if you have a average to above average offensive line, man, I think you can make those guys work. So once again, it's not a knock on Najee Harris at all. And look, you could go through these first round draft picks after, come the time the Steelers pick this year and go all the way to their second round pick, and you can probably ask yourself, well, was there anybody better for the Steelers to draft? And, the short list that you would build would include Najee Harris in that. And it's easy to look at some of these offensive linemen after the fact. That's called results bias, and say, well, some of them are injured and all like that. But then you have, I think Creed Humphrey's playing pretty well, isn't he? Those kind of things there. I'm not saying, I'm just saying when it comes to running backs and the fungibility of them.
Yeah, point taken. And I think Johnson was another feather in that cap last night. But Steelers got a good running back in Najee Harris, and I think that is one element of it, is that you just want to get good talent in the first round because, you don't want to take those picks for granted. You're 50-50 if your first-round pick works or not, and you're happy that this one seems to have hit for Pittsburgh. But for Cleveland and for Week 8, now it's a question of, will Pittsburgh face Dearness Johnson in Week 8, or will Kareem Hunt? Well, Kareem Hunt won't come back. He's on IR, but will Nick Chubb be available? And, of course, who will be under center for Cleveland. It looks like Baker Mayfield is in danger of missing this game, including with the torn labrum he's dealing with in his non-throwing shoulder. According to Jake Glazer, Mayfield also has a broken bone in his shoulder, and he's going to need surgery, obviously, once the season ends. So it's a question of, from a pain tolerance standpoint, can he play against the Steelers? And right now, I think it's 50-50. My guess is that he will, but I couldn't put any money on that.
Yeah, our own Dr. Mel weighed in on that after the Jay Glazer report hit pregame last night. Funny how those things always crop up right before, during the national.
Yeah, almost like they're planned.
Oh, don't go say that. But Dr. Mel weighed in on that and tweeted out some good information on that. And I think that Dr. Chow or also had a video on it. He seems to be more optimistic about maybe Baker trying to play through that. But once again, look, they did play on a Thursday night. They've got a week and a few days here now before they have to make the decision on Baker Mayfield. It wouldn't surprise me if he played. It is one of those things, it sounds like, with him that at some point, sometime, he's going to need that labrum repaired after the season's over with there. The thing is, man, how many more times can he keep landing on that shoulder, even though he's going to be wearing that, I guess, that harness brace and all like that. And it is, of course, his non-throwing. But, one Watt got him a couple of weeks ago there, and there's another Watt going to be coming to Cleveland, a week from Sunday as well, too. So if they play Baker, they better max protect him, and they better be able to run the football the way they, have seemingly done for, I guess a couple of seasons now there. And, they were without, I think, Jack Conklin or even the right tackle last night. And I don't even know who that kid was they had replacing him last night, but he seemed to play pretty well and played even better after Von Miller left the game with an ankle injury there on top of it. So I guess to sum it up, even with Case Keenum, their offense at times, sputtered a little bit moving the football, but overall their offense didn't seem to play bad at all. Be interested to see what happens with Odell Beckham Jr., I guess, with that shoulder he's dealing with. They're going to did they put the Notre Dame running back on IR? I think, did they?
Who you talking about?
JOK.
Oh, the linebacker. Yeah. He's on IR. He will not play against the Steelers.
Okay, so they'll definitely be without him, and they'll definitely be without Kareem Hunt. The question becomes will they have Nick Chubb and some of them pieces on offense? I think we saw Dedrick Ward get shot in the hamstring in the second half of that game too, so maybe he's going to be a little bit questionable.
Yeah, with Baker, I think about the hit that he took from Cam Hayward last year, and can he survive that again? And I don't know if he can, but he's a tough dude. I'll give him credit for that. So we'll see. But, we'll be monitoring that, of course. And I know that Stefanski did not rule out Baker for Week 8, so I guess we'll just have to see what the practice participation looks like next week.
It's way early on this, and we'll obviously get deeper into this next week and all. And let's assume Baker plays. You got to get after him, don't you? You got to make him want to leave that pocket and get some hits, I think.
You do, for sure. I think you still need to be careful and not get too aggressive in all the name of hitting Baker. You still want to play your style of defense, but certainly the more you can hit that guy, the more you can make him feel that injury, the better off. And obviously he's not played well because he's playing through the injury and it's affecting some of his mechanics. And even if it is to his non-throwing shoulder, it's still bothering him and impacting him as a passer. So he has not played well, and that's something else his team probably has to consider in the equation, because it's not like Baker was playing great. That injury is hampering him in many different ways, physically and probably mentally as well. And so, my guess again is that he'll play. I think they wanted to give him this week off just to get him ready for Week 8, but we'll see.
Where do you weigh in on the Browns right now?
Just on their overall season outlook. I think they're a good team. Obviously, they're dealing with a ton of injuries right now, but when you have a good run game and a good offensive line and a good scheme, and like a good coach and structure with Stefanski and what Bill Callahan's done for that offensive line, you're going to be a good competitive team. And I know Denver is not far from the NFL elite, but when I think pretty not, I wouldn't say handily, but when you're in control of that game start to finish, despite all the injuries you're dealing with on a short week, that speaks to, I think, good coaching and just some good depth overall. So when you can run the ball effectively and get a decent pass rush and those kinds of things, I think you're in that camp of being a good team.
I agree, and if they can continue to run the football the way they have, I think they're going to be a team to deal with still. I think they're still going to lose a chunk of games in there, but kind of keeping with that, Alex, with that AFC kind of North theme, if you will, with the Steelers on the bye week. A guy from the Draft Network released some passing stats a few days ago using the Next Gen Stats passing charts. And there's a little bit of criteria still that's kind of undefined there. And this is concerning middle of the field throws and exactly middle of the throw pass attempts between 8 and 20 yards down the field. Now, not beyond 20, but 8 and 20 yards down the field. And he defines the middle of the field as a third width of the field. All right. You know me, and I've done some charting in college, and college charting as well too along the way throughout the years. There, the hash marks are obviously different in the NFL than they are in the college game and all like that. It is hard at times to define, on kind of that gray area of third middle of the field. But props to this guy Carter Donick for going through all the passing charts of the quarterbacks. Really a laborious thing, something I would do probably. For little, take a long time and get very little return off of it there. But the results of those of his study of going through those passing charts, and this is minimum. Once again, this is minimum 50 pass attempts of 80 to 20-yard pass attempts within the middle third of the field. So now that we properly, or at least defined that the way he's defined it, nobody's going to clutch their pearls here, you included, Alex, more than likely. But Ben Roethlisberger ranked 30th overall through week 6 with just 3.83% of his pass attempts going 8 to 20 yards down the field in the middle third of the field there. I'm not shocking you, am I?
I was just happy he wasn't last. I thought he was going to be 32nd, so I will take 30th place.
Okay, so playing in on that, you played right into my hands, Alex.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Baker Mayfield, 3.47. He's actually 31st, one spot behind Ben Roethlisberger. That sort of surprised me. I don't know if it did you.
It did. I mean, not that I had an expectation of where I thought Baker would be on that list, but 31st behind Ben would not have been my first 25 guesses.
I agree. Joe Burrow, just 2 spots ahead of Ben at 4.02%. Maybe I thought he'd be a little bit higher than that, but just instant recall of live games and not charting stuff. I can see where he's more prone right now at this stage of his career to maybe stay more away, from the middle of the field. I obviously haven't gone deep into their passing concepts and want to try to attack the middle of the field there. But even so, you have Burrow 28th, Roethlisberger 30th, and Baker Mayfield 31st. And let's just call Joe Burrow an even 4% because it's 4.02. So really all three of them essentially 4% or less when it comes to total pass attempts through 6 games. And I'm a little bit maybe not so surprised, but Lamar Jackson 12.89% leads the NFL in that statistical category. And
when you have Mark Andrews, it helps.
Yeah, it most definitely does. And also, I think it is kind of a known fact with Lamar Jackson, at least going into this year, that he's not great throwing outside of the numbers and all. So that would probably tend to also play into the fact that he's more comfortable throwing to the middle of the field.
Yeah, I don't recall the list. I saw it whenever we wrote about it, but where do Mahomes and Carr fit on that list?
Mahomes is right behind Lamar Jackson at 10 point. Lamar Jackson's 12.89%. Man, that's high. 12.89%. Patrick Mahomes is second at 10.33%, and you said Derek Carr.
Yeah, where was Derek Carr?
Or as Antonio Brown's kids would say, Derek Carter. 7.76%, 8th overall.
Okay, so the team, just a general brief correlation, the teams with the top tight ends tend to be higher middle of the field when you have Waller, Kelsey, and Mark Andrews.
And Tom Brady, 8.61, but he hasn't had Gronk for the last couple weeks, but he's got everybody else under the sun there to throw to. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes seem like huge outliers here at 12.89 and 10.33% because Tom Brady's third on that list at 8.61. It kind of seems like and even Aaron Rodgers is 6.99% at 11th overall. It seems like, I guess the median or the average here is right around, I don't know, 6 to 6.5 range, right around in there. So not a huge difference overall. But when you look at the amount of pass attempts that Ben has and those kind of things. All right, now on to kind of my point here. How big of a deficiency should that be? We talk about it all the time. We've talked about it with Ben and throwing to the middle of the field for several years now. I don't think we've gotten deep into talk about why is that so bad, and what are ways to work around it. See where I'm going?
Yeah, no, we're not surprised by this data at all, because we've talked about it so much. So, why is it so bad and how do you work around it? I mean, Ben's whole mentality has typically been to take those outside shots. He prefers against cover one to take that outside shot and let his guys win those 50-50 balls. That's kind of been just the mentality of it. I mean, certainly he hasn't had the elite tight end the way that some of those top guys have that really kind of forces you and compels you to work the middle of the field type stuff. And the way they've run Juju's route tree, at least the last 2 seasons, has been really short. And I think that's been maybe a disservice to Juju and disservice to Ben and to this offense. But I think conceptually you want to see some more stuff to create those throws middle of the field, some of those levels and mills and things you talk about that'll open up some of that stuff, even against middle of the field close where it's tough to throw over the middle.
And now, obviously, said a couple of weeks ago that I thought the best thing for this offense until they get their legs up underneath them was to run more RPOs. Well, lo and behold, they have. And within that, most of the passes that you see out of an RPO are probably going to be those wide receiver screens, if not kind of maybe a quick slant or something like that. So something outside, shorter and outside the middle of the field. So what we've seen so far with that last couple of weeks with the higher percentage of RPOs, obviously is not going to help Ben in the middle of his field. Pass attempt stats, especially when every time that he throws 40 to 50 times a game, with a large percentage of those as well too. But technically, Ben's number plays out to based on I reverse engineer the math thanks to Excel. not hard to do, but I don't know why I'd be without Google Calculator sometimes. But and this comes from a guy that I can count cards in the casino. Go figure. But it's right at 9 throws he's made in that 8 to 20 yard distance
for the season.
And
those are just attempts.
Those are just attempts.
What were the completion? The numbers on?
I tried to look. It's either 4 or 5.
Okay.
Because there's some gray area in there with some that you don't know. It's not like the guy has the lines drawn on the next gen passing charts and all. But it's either 4 or 5 that he's completed of those 9.
Yeah, I mean, for Pittsburgh generally, or for any team with that slot, with the middle of the field type of real estate, it's usually a real good slot receiver or a really good tight end. And so again, some of the top names: Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelsey, with Carr, it's Darren Waller, it's Hunter Renfrow, and guys like that. And then sometimes, of course, it's conceptual as well. So yeah, you would like to see Ben use it more, but he just hasn't, and I don't know how much that's going to change throughout the rest of the season.
All right, now anytime you write or say something that appears negative about Ben, the you hate Ben crowd comes after you, and they have been in full force since I tweeted some of this stuff out and wrote about it the other day, and someone says, well, look at I don't think everybody imagine this. People don't read every word of articles. I think they go to the headline, read the first couple of sentences, and go straight to the comments or the Twitter machine. But I digress. Someone said, Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield's down there, so let's not beat on Ben too bad. And I responded back that, well, I mentioned both those guys, Mayfield and Burrow in the article, and how they're right there with Ben and how that's not great. And then kind of the response I got back from that was, well, how big a deal is it? Because the Bengals are scoring points, so is it overblown? And my response to that was, well, Burrow is, I think, right at 50% on his pass attempts of 16 or more yards down the field. Okay, I think it's 12 of 24 to be exact. 12 of 24 or 12 of 25, something like that, on pass attempts more than, now this is anywhere on the field, 16 or more yards down the field. 5 of those 12 completions that he's had in that distance have ended up in the end zone for touchdowns. All right. And I think somewhere along the lines of 27%, 28% of the offensive touchdowns that the Bengals have so far entering this week have come on what the NFL terms deep pass touchdown, which would be 16 or more yards past the line of scrimmage in the air. So I think that's the difference here, is that, okay, yes, it is okay to not be a middle of the field guy, if you will, quarterback. However, you better be offsetting that by hitting chunk plays, would be my answer on the outside.
Which Ben has struggled to do. So, yeah, I agree.
Would you agree with that? Is that a fair statement?
I do, yeah. I think if you're not going to hit middle of the field and you're not going to hit outside, then where are you hitting? It's kind of one of those things. So if you're not going to do middle of the field, you better be more successful on the outside. And, yeah, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have had a really good connection this year and gotten those big chunk plays outside the numbers, as Pittsburgh saw when they played them.
So, I guess what I'm getting at is how, or my question would be, how big of a sin is it for Ben's number to be this low?
I mean, it's hard to quantify exactly how big of a sin it is, but it's a sin. It's helpful.
It's a sin that's attached to, well, that then this, isn't it?
What do you mean by that then this? From the chunk plays outside the numbers?
Right. Being able to hit down the field. If you're not going to throw in the middle of the field, you better be able to throw down the field outside.
Yeah, I'm still always more interested in the why. Why is, because this is not a new issue for Ben. You could track these numbers for several seasons and get similar results, I'm sure. So, is that a Ben thing? Is that a personnel thing? Is that a schematic thing? I don't have a great answer for why those numbers of middle of the field are typically so low.
But we do admit, at least these last 2 seasons alone in the All-22, they don't run a lot of middle of the field, past 10-yard developing concepts.
Right, yeah. So sometimes it's just not there for Ben. But why is that? Is that a coverage thing? I mean, you can't blame it all on coverage over 1.5 seasons. Is that a Ben preference thing? Is that just based on what they think the skill set of this personnel is? I'm not quite sure.
I bet Randy Fichtner would tell us.
Yeah, probably would.
I bet Matt Canada wouldn't.
Matt Canada won't say anything interesting ever, so he will not.
And all right, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it always seems to be a topic of conversation. So you can't throw to a guy in the middle of the field if you don't have a guy running to the middle of the field, right?
Right. I mean, there haven't been a ton of instances, at least this year, where I've gone, okay, this guy's like wide open middle of the field. Ben just missed him. Generally, they're just not even running those kinds of routes for Ben to even consider throwing.
So there's a lot of chicken and egg stuff here, right?
There is, but you're just trying to figure out what is what and what's the reason behind it. And again, I don't have a clear answer on that.
All right. So within all that, you don't expect Ben's number to, if it goes up, it won't go up much when it comes to middle of the field pass attempts. Unless maybe they get a little bit more of this play action. Maybe they get people, biting a little bit more on the run and establishing that run a little bit more, and maybe using Pat Freiermuth a little bit more. I think Pat Freiermuth might hold the key to this number going up.
Yeah, although how many routes does he run 8 yards plus? It's like 8 yards, like 7 yards and in is kind of where his route tree has been. But I do think, you could see an increase there, but you're not going to get the same vertical action the way that, obviously the Ravens and Chiefs and Raiders are going to get with their guys.
All right, so let me close it out this way. Yes, Ben's number's down there, but yes, I think it can be defended for one reason or the other, because the Steelers offense, whether it's him, whether it's Canada, whether it's whoever, just does not, there's not a lot of opportunities to do that, period.
Right. But why is that? And we don't have the answer to that.
Right.
But that to me is the much more interesting question. We know that Ben does not throw there a lot. The numbers just kind of confirm what we've already seen with our eyes. But why is that?
Yeah, I mean, and neither one of us had that answer.
Yeah, so that's the question that's in my head. But especially when you had a guy like Juju. I mean, Juju was such a good slot receiver. Like, he can run those kinds of routes and make those plays, and it just didn't happen that often.
All right. All right, I've kind of said I've got fungibility and middle of the field Ben throws on my bingo card.
You're rolling today. And speaking of that, happy retirement to Mike Lang. Speaking of bingo cards and all that.
Boy, all the memories that guy has produced over the years and all like that. Calling those games and some of those Lord Stanley. They just, some of those things just are forever etched in your mind.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Steelers coaches, positional coaches spoke this week, and I think the most interesting guy was wide receivers coach Ike Hilliard. I know, Dave, we had a long conversation on Monday and Wednesday trying to figure out why James Washington played just 8 snaps in Sunday's win over Seattle, and all those coming within the first 20 minutes of the game, essentially. And Mike Tomlin, Matt Canada did not give much clarification on those answers, but Ike Hilliard did. And I want to read part of the quote here from Coach Hilliard about why Washington played so little. Hilliard taking the blame for Washington's low snap count. He said, quote, "We had 2 men coming off of injury." That is, by the way, Chase Claypool and James Washington. Ray is Juju's primary backup. I was really, really comfortable with Cody White backing him up at the F spot. The F spot, by the way, is the slot receiver spot in Pittsburgh. So the initial idea was to trade basically a series or 2 with each guy at the Z position, meaning Chase and James, and Chase's hamstring held up a lot better than I expected. With James having limited reps during the week at the F, limited practice time, period, it was a little safer for me mentally in a game situation to stick with Chase out there and let him go with the Z and not throw James to the Wolves at the F spot, and Ray handled it relatively well. End quote there. And so Hilliard concluded by saying he'll do a better job going forward of rotating those snaps. Instead, you'll see a quote cleaner rotation with all 4 or 5 guys playing. We'll do a better job going forward. So in essence, the idea was for Washington and Claypool to rotate at the outside Z position spot, but Claypool was handling that well. His hamstring, not a big issue. And because Washington did not get many practice reps at the slot this week, they chose to go with Ray as kind of being the main guy in the slot.
All right, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah, you don't have to love the answer or love the decision, but I appreciate the clarity and the honesty and the kind of look behind the curtain about how that goes. And so at least I feel like I understand the situation now.
At least it adds context to what we saw in our charting of when the snaps happened and when they stopped, kind of thing there. You get out there and hey Chase, how's your hamstring holding up? Good. Okay, well we'll move forward with that because James didn't get a lot of work these last couple weeks here.
Yeah, essentially. And Washington, obviously not a natural slot receiver, didn't have a lot of reps there, and so they didn't want to play Washington in the slot too much. And I can understand that, but I think obviously you'll see Washington play more than 8 snaps going forward. But it was just good to get an answer behind that.
Now, parsing what I don't want to over-parse this because that's what I do. I want your parsing of what Hilliard said as far as what do you because he made sure to throw out there we move guys around. That was a key kind of qualifier, I think, if you will. What are you who are you expecting to see more of in the slot and more of in the Z, assuming full health coming out of this bye?
I mean, it sounds like it'll be a big rotation. I know in a separate quote, I think, Hilliard said they're challenging Washington to learn the slot more and to play there, which signals that they want to keep Claypool on the outside at the Z spot as much as possible. Obviously, Claypool will bump inside some of the 3-by-1 kind of nub formations they're running with the tight end backside, kind of creates Claypool in the slot more naturally. But it sounds like it'll be a rotation of, Washington, Claypool rotating at the Z, Washington, McLeod rotating at the F, the slot spot going forward.
Can you hear my facepalm?
You're not a fan of that?
I mean, it just, okay, so you're going to help James learn, in the middle of a season, you're going to help James Washington learn more about the slots position.
Yeah, I mean, well, what sometimes guys have to learn. I mean, Washington's a veteran guy. He knows the system, so it's not going to be brand new to him. It's not like he's never played in the slot before. But if that's going to be his opportunity to get snaps, then it's either that or Ray in the slot. I mean, obviously Claypool can go in the slot, but it sounds like they don't want to do that quite as much as you do.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested to see moving forward. To me, it does sound like we're going to see some degree of Washington in the slot, and that will be quite interesting to see. Because
I think the idea is just to give themselves options, so they're not feel like they're compelled to, like, one guy works here and one guy works here, and then you're just kind of static.
And then obviously the way he kind of talked up Ray McLeod, Ray's going to get some snaps too. It seems like. So is it going to be so? I think you're going to see McLeod and Washington kind of get watered down with each other, though, snap wise.
Yeah, I don't think Claypool is going to lose out on a lot of snaps here. I think it'll be kind of Washington rotating between F and Z, and McLeod getting rotated into that F slot spot.
All right, should be interesting moving forward, but that's at least what it sounds like the plan is. What I would do is out of 11 personnel, I'd look. You obviously have to move guys around, but I would think I would go with the majority of Chase Claypool in the slot, but we'll see.
Speaking of Chase Claypool, like Hilliard also talked about Chase and just said they're looking for more splash plays.
Oh, be careful here. They're going to come after you.
Okay. Well, Ike's words, not mine here, about Chase Claypool, saying, quote, Chase is unique, with his size and speed and ability to adjust. And then sometimes in situations you just have to make the play as a guy. We haven't clearly done enough of that for everybody's liking, including ours. And so this was, I think, a general comment, but a little more specific on Chase Claypool, that you're looking for some of those big play potential guys to make those big plays. And I've said this before, that Claypool is a super physically gifted dude, a real freak in the NFL, but he doesn't always play to those tools. And you want to see that consistency in more routine big plays and less kind of high variance in his game going forward.
I'm not going to touch that. I want you to expound on what you just said.
I mean,
about Chase Claypool's deficiencies.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't always play like the 6'4", 230, 4'4" freak that he is. I mean, he'll have some great plays and some big moments, but I don't know if I've seen that. I haven't seen that jump quite as clearly from year one to year two as I was hoping. And I think that was true back in training camp, where the hands aren't always as good as they can be. The route running has things to work on, and just generally speaking, I want to see him become a more efficient player. Obviously, he's supremely talented and can make some big plays, and this offense needs huge plays, and he can certainly be a prime guy in this offense to be one of the big weapons on the outside. But he doesn't always play to, I think, the physical tools that he has, and you want to see improvement there. How
much do you put on Ben Roethlisberger so far with Chase's lack of big plays?
I mean, it's an element of it. There are times where Ben's underthrown the deep ball and made Claypool work harder than he probably should have or had to do to get the football. I think against the Raiders, for example, there were some deep shots that were maybe thrown to the wrong shoulder that Chase maybe makes otherwise. So I mean, I'm not going to put all the blame on Claypool, but I'm not going to absolve Claypool fully either, just because of some balls he has to adjust to. I mean, he's that frame that he has and the size that he has, he can make those kinds of plays. He can adjust to balls and has a bigger catch radius than any other receiver on this team by far. And so he needs to make some of those spectacular plays, because I think he has the skill set to make those big-time plays.
Let's see here what I wrote up the other day. To date, Claypool, who had team-high 14 explosive plays as a rookie in 2020, has 5 such catches through the first 6 regular season games this year. So what's that extrapolate out to? I mean, that's, one a game? Let's see, a little less than 1 a game, right?
That puts them on pace for 14 this season.
Okay, but they need more than that, don't they?
They do. With the way the offense is currently constructed, again, as we talked about, with them not being a big middle of the field type of team and kind of relying on the outside one-on-one, versus cover one shots, then that's where Claypool has to shine. That's kind of how this offense is designed, with a good running game and an offense that can win outside the numbers for those big plays, 40 plus yards.
And here's what I also dug up here. So far this season, he has only caught 4 of the 12 passes thrown more than 15 yards down the field through 6 games played. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean,
whoever, him, Ben, whoever, any wide receiver. I mean, for that matter, there. And where I'm going with this, and you hit on it, and to kind of open up this little bit of what Hilliard had to say. The thing that jumped out at me, not long into Hilliard opening his mouth up, is more splash. This offense has got to start. The way this offense is designed and has been the last couple of years, it is very reliant on splash plays. And to think that you're going to get the 20-yard jet sweeps week in, week out is foolish. To think that you're going to get the throw short, run long every week is foolish. You not only do you need these chunk plays, this Steelers offense needs double explosive type stuff. The stuff that Antonio Brown used to give this offense. We're not seeing enough splash. Period. I don't care who it is, and unless this offense. Look, it's great that they've got this successful run rate going in the right direction now, and I think they can build off of that now because of that moving forward past the bye. But if we're not seeing more 20-yard or more, 6 a game at least, with maybe 1 or 2 of those ending up in the end zone, then there's not going to be much hope for this offense, I don't think, because I don't believe this to be an offense that can consistently be asked to drive the field 10 plays at a time.
Yeah, they're still not at that efficient rate. I mean, obviously, Deontay Johnson can and is shown to be a deep threat, but he should not be the number one deep threat on this team. That's not his role as an X receiver. He's supposed to be, backside 3x1, winning some of the short stuff, the quick game, RPO game, and things like that. Chase Claypool should and needs to be this team's primary deep threat. That's why he's the Z receiver. That's why he got drafted to be in that role. That's why they want to keep him on the outside as much as possible so he can win vertically. And so he needs to prove that. And obviously he's not going to win every single situation. You don't want to set the bar unreasonably high for him and expect him to catch all 15 of those deep attempts, but you want to see it higher than whatever the number is, 4 or 5. You want to see it, closer to 50%, honestly.
All right, Ike said we need more splash, and Ike was asked, well, how do you go about getting more splash? He says, we're ramping up everything in terms of what we do. The more the running game comes along, the play action pass is going to hit better. I don't believe in that. I believe the stats and even the Chargers head coach would disagree with that. You just need to use it more. Individually out there, we need to make more individual plays, being on the same page with the quarterback, which is always a work in progress. But we're looking forward to where we're going to go the rest of the season with that.
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds well and good besides the kind of archaic play action philosophy there. But yeah, this team needs to create more ways to get splashed. I think some of that can be schematic, but some of that is just guys winning their matchups. I mean, this Steelers group is still really talented at receiver, Claypool in particular. Again, I think I'm not trying to knock him too much. I'm trying to say, like, he's such a talented guy. I know he's capable of making these big plays. I know it's within his power. I'm not asking him to do things he can't do. It just finding some more consistency in doing that.
All right, outside of the quarterback, who is Claypool the one guy that this offense needs to get more out of moving forward past the bye week?
Yes, especially in regard to the big play. He needs to be the big playmaker for this team.
Okay, I agree.
Anything else from Hilliard? That was good stuff from Mike Hilliard. I appreciate the honesty there. The assistant coaches are more honest because they don't do this stuff as often, so they don't know how to coach speak as well.
Right. I liked him talking about the RPOs and the breakdown and all those. And I think Matthew Marks here, one of you guys has a post up on those quotes about that this morning.
Yeah, I think that was Matthew. I don't think I wrote about it, but yeah, I definitely seen an increase in RPOs. And like you said, they are typically more outside the numbers in Pittsburgh. I mean, sometimes they can be more glance routes and things like that in other cities. But Pittsburgh for Ben, and I think Ben has done a good job of reading those RPOs and getting Pittsburgh in the right situation often enough.
Boy, I just did some reading up on glance route. I'm glad you brought that up. Why don't we see even more of that? So simple, you know?
Yeah, I had a buddy ask me that last week. Why don't we see that? And I just said I think it's Ben's general philosophy of throwing out to the numbers, and I think sometimes that glance route gets a little bit muddier in terms of the picture of where is a safety coming down, is a linebacker dropping, what kind of depth do they have, and reading over the lineman a little bit. I think maybe that picture is a little bit harder to read on that glance, which is basically a slant route if you're not aware of what the term is. And so I think Ben likes the outside because I think it's a little clearer picture for him.
It's a deeper kind of slant.
Yeah.
And that usually tends to happen with the target spot being between the hash and between the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just kind of like you said, a little deeper of a slant route.
And the Falcons are starting to learn how to use their new tight end in that way out wide. Why can't the Steelers start maybe using Ebron maybe that way too?
Yeah, we even tried with being sure-handed over the middle because usually it's like you said, you get the conflict player, somebody sucks up on the run because it's the run action, they get a low hat read, and then you throw it behind it. But like I said, I think generally this team throws the ball outside the numbers, so they're not going to run those. Their RPO routes are going to reflect that and run outside the numbers, which they have. And I think that picture's a little bit muddier for Ben over the middle of the field than it would be on the outside.
All right, the last couple games, obviously, heavy increase in RPOs. I was a big fan for that, calling for that. But now during this bye week, is it time to kind of build off of that? A little less RPOs, maybe give more RPO, run some different concepts now out of those RPO looks, and kind of build off it from there, especially with maybe a couple of home run hitters in there.
Well, it's tough to do the big play on the RPO because those linemen get downfield and you're going to get flagged for it. So I think you have to keep it with the quick game on that. It's hard to run like a double move or something off an RPO.
Right, but you can give the look and have regular pass protection off of that is what I'm getting at. Make it look like one thing with the motion or whatnot, and on top of it sometimes, and then build off of it from there. In other words, instead of
play action,
right, just having, instead of them run block on the RPO, it's going to be pass all the way is what I'm getting at.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it's just like more play action. I guess is kind of the point. Yeah. I mean, their play action rate's now 31st. So again, it's not last. So they've been last every single year for like 5 straight seasons. So now I don't know who's in last place now in play action rate, but it's not Pittsburgh. So small steps.
So they need to start, and we've said this for years now. There needs to be a more concerted effort, and especially if you're not going to use the middle of the field to do it, you got to push the football down the field a little bit more on the outside, and at the very least, just inside the numbers past 12 yards.
Yeah, but to your point about RPOs, I just keep running them. I mean, if they're working, this team needs to find things that are working, and whatever it takes to get a victory, I'm just going to keep running them.
Okay, but they definitely need more splash in there.
Yeah, they do, for sure. Terrell Austin, who is the Steelers' defensive assistant but de facto secondary coach, spoke with the media as well the other day and talked about something. And I know you'll accept this comment with the humility that you always show, Dave. Akella Witherspoon, why is he not playing? And Terrell Austin said it's because of special teams. He said, quote, let's see, quote, I think when you look at where we are on game day, you have your top 3 guys. And then the fourth corner, really, that guy is mostly a special teams player. And Jay Lane is a heck of a special teams player. He had a great stop as a gunner in the game this past week. And so, quote, until that happens in terms of Witherspoon being a better special teams player, until there's a switch in that regard, that's where he'll be. So bottom line is, from my kind of wordy comment here, is that until Witherspoon shows he's a more effective special teams player, he's not going to see the field.
All right, I'm not going to take an opportunity to pat myself on the back here. But look, I mean, it adds up. To me, it was more of a it was a black and white thing there, and I saw that right out of the chute there. And we talked about him. Look, since Witherspoon was drafted, there has been, and you did a great job on the film rooms right after he was traded for, showing that he has made some strides in that. But he's not going to overtake Justin Lane just yet. on that area, and I think Austin was quick to point out about the special teams stop that Lane had in that game the other night there. So unless somebody's injured right now, unless they're down a defensive back and need a defensive back to fill a helmet, he's not going to get on the field, man. And that's essentially what I've been telling people on the podcast, on Twitter, and anybody who asked that say, well, why the heck did they trade for him? I don't know why they traded for him, to be honest with you. I don't know if maybe they thought maybe they're going to have – maybe they thought there was an injury, more, a health situation, just needing more health overall, what have you. But, I mean, and it's easy to judge this thing 6 weeks into the season when the kids played 3 defensive snaps, I think. It's right now, it's not going to go into Kevin Colbert's top 10 all-time trades.
Yeah, it's not Sean Mahan, but well, that wasn't a trade, I guess, but not a great move by Colbert.
No, the good deal there was him trading Mahan away.
No way. Yeah, you get anything for him, bucket of footballs. Yeah, the concern isn't that, like, for me, that Witherspoon's been inactive when the group is healthy, but that week when Cam Sutton was down, you thought, okay, Witherspoon's going to get the hat, and they chose Carl Joseph over Sutton. And I can understand that to a degree, because I think they were looking more to replace Sutton in terms of the interior sub-package type stuff that Sutton does, and Joseph got some run as a nickel corner. So maybe that's why Witherspoon wasn't up. But it goes back to what you mentioned, the overall point does of, why trade for this guy in the first place? If you knew he's not going to be a super valuable special teams player, and he's going to be depth on this team, then what's his role? Then what are you giving up a 5th-round pick for a guy who can't contribute on special teams and won't play unless there are multiple injuries to starters? What is the process there? And
then he goes on, and here's the thing where he got hung by the tongue. And I think Austin's fantastic. I hope he stays for a long time in Pittsburgh. But all of our defensive backs tackle. You have to tackle to play in the NFL. Blah blah blah. He stuck his foot in his mouth. I kind of viewed it later on in that press conference, talking about how physical and how, if you're going to play cornerback or defensive back in the NFL, you got to be able to tackle. Yet they have a guy that they traded for that, lacking a better word, can't tackle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't. And again, it's not like they gave up a 7th-round pick, some sort of conditional thing. It was a 5th-round pick. That, for a guy that's about to get cut, so decent draft capital you invested in a guy.
I can get me a fungible running back with that.
Yeah, you can get a couple of them. It's an expiring contract guy that's gonna get cut in a 5th-round pick. When you already lack draft capital and you already have some comp issues about what will or won't you get, depending on how the comp formula shakes out, depending on Mike Hilton and Joe Hagan, guys like that. So a lot of factors there that I can if they just had signed this guy as a free agent, then that's fine, not a big deal. But trading for this guy, again, you just wonder what was the process, what was the thought in dealing for Witherspoon, because none of it really makes a lot of sense.
I tell you right now, one thing, people listening to this podcast right now, you don't want to see Witherspoon dressing this year, I don't think, period.
Right, which A, probably means there are multiple injuries. And then likely, B, to the play itself, that maybe his play won't be stellar, especially on special teams.
Right. So take the L and move along, as the kids might say. But will Witherspoon be on this roster in 2022? Will he make it to camp?
Well, isn't he a free agent after this year?
Right. Yep.
He's not. I don't think he's coming back. Hey, why would he want to come back? He's not playing. And so no, I don't think he'll be on this roster next season. He'll go the way of Nick Vannett.
Ooh, there's a trivia question for you. All right.
We won't go back to Seattle. But yeah. So that was Austin on Witherspoon. Austin on Trey Norwood. They love this Trey Norwood kid. I mean, they just talk this guy up every single chance, but well deserved with the way he played against Seattle, and just said his role will keep growing, and just really impressed with. And Keith Butler said similar things about how I think Butler's words were he's come a long way, referring to Trey Norwood, and so you're seeing Norwood, and I think for him, I'm gonna have an article on this today or tomorrow, Dave. They've done a good job of reducing his role. Early in the season, they played him in nickel and dime. They had a lot of packages for him, and he struggled. And lately, he's been playing just in dime packages. And so I think they've kind of reduced the role, the workload for him, allowed him to focus in on just kind of one position, one spot, one situation, one package. And I think it's kind of probably slowed things down for him by not putting too much on his plate.
Was the play he made, I think it was on the first, on the tackle on DK Metcalf, maybe early there, with Swain running wide open down the side of the field. I believe that was that play. Is that a no? Oh, good play. on his. Where was the miscommunication there?
That is hard to discern. I don't believe it's on Norwood. I'd be shocked if it was because he was on the other side of the football and the motion brought him across there last second. It's either on Sutton or Minka, and I don't know who. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to decide who it was on because it's just so hard to determine communication bus. And unless you go back and watch other plays at the same coverage and see it covered right, it's really hard to determine who's at fault, at least confidently, unless you have a lot of prior information. So I can't say for sure, but it did show, the difference between a great third down stop and what could have been a 85-yard touchdown. That line is super thin.
What'd you think about them bracketing? Did you write about this morning, or one of you
that
did
was
it?
Matt Owen, I think, actually, on Twitter.
About the bracketing on Metcalf on that late sack by Watt.
Yeah, that was, I think, a Twitter thing from Matt Bowen, who does excellent work for ESPN. I did the Hayden coverage on the forced fumble, if that's what you're referring to. But
you
yeah,
guys put out so much great content every day. It's amazing to try to keep up with sometimes.
But the Steelers have done a great job of taking away top weapons. I mean, Lockett and Metcalf were essentially almost non-factors in that game, and you knew those would be the top guys. So then the run defense was a separate issue, and maybe that's one reason why their run defense struggled was because they were so focused on taking away Lockett and Metcalf. But throughout this whole season, whether it's Darren Waller, it's Stephon Diggs, it's Devonta Adams, Pittsburgh's whole mantra is take away their best guy and force the second, third, and fourth options to step up and make plays. And sometimes those guys have, Foster Moreau and Randall Cobb and guys like that. But Pittsburgh's whole identity defensively is to not get beat by the opponent's best guys.
Terrell Austin also used the S word yesterday, or when he spoke.
Oh, what's the S word?
Splash.
Oh, splash. He did. And he was asked about Minka and was asked if there's any sort of concern about Minka, but basically said that he's confident turnovers will come in Minka's future and has no issues with the job Minka's done this season.
And I think specifically somewhere in there, because I re-listened back to it this morning, he said we just need to make more splash on defense, and that him using the S word and Ike Hilliard using the S word made it easy for me to form up a terrible take on Thursday there, and that was going back to the good old-fashioned talk stat. Alex, years ago, way before the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat came along, my fascination was with the talk stat, TOX, turnovers and explosive plays. And sometimes I think it's good to go back to that kind of root stat, if you will. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think this Steelers team at 3-3 right now is lucky to be 3-3 based on what's happened in the turnover explosive play differential department. And in case if you don't like listening to my terrible takes, that's fine. But here's the crux of the TOX stat: TOX, turnovers and explosive play differential. And as the analytics have proven over the years, in any one game, if you take one team's explosive plays of 20 yards or more, add it to their takeaways, and then do the same with the other team. If there's a team that's +2 for a game, when it comes to that, 80% of the time that team wins. All right, so it's kind of a duh type stat, but when you go back to it and you look at things that have transpired this year with the Steelers. And we just talked about how this team's not creating enough explosive plays on offense. We already know that they've had problems taking away the football. That as a whole, as a just a raw, easy shooting fish in the barrel type observation, they need to get better with explosive plays on offense. They need to not turn the ball over on offense. They need to take the ball away on defense more, and they need to start giving up a few less home runs, if you will, on defense's side too. If they can, that'll be interesting to track from this bye week moving forward, because quite honestly, they've won. I think they got the -3 TOX win against the. Who was it? Broncos? They've only won 3 games.
I mean, it's not Buffalo.
May have been Seattle this past week.
Okay.
that they got the rare -3 Tox win. Those don't happen, all right? And it was this past week. And once again, you can thank T.J. Watt for that win.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, splash plays, I think it's a requirement in today's NFL across the board, especially for defenses, because as I've said, I repeat myself that offenses, they put up too many points, they're going to move the football. That just kind of baked into the cake of today's NFL. So you got to do something explosive defensively to get a big sack, to get a turnover, steal a possession, get a short field, something like that, because you're not going to shut teams out. You're not going to hold teams to under 14 points. It just doesn't work in almost all weeks in today's NFL.
And that you wrote about a couple years ago with the Magic takeaway number being right around the 24-25 mark. You better hit it. You better hit it if you want a chance at winning the Super Bowl, period.
And I will say this team's gotten a little bit of bad luck. I mean, the play we forget about is Minka Fitzpatrick forcing that fumble on that final drive. And I don't know how that ball bounced back into the running back for Seattle's hands. That ball should have bounced away, been recovered by Devin Bush or Hayden or Minka himself or somebody, and that game should have been over right then and there. So I think Minka is making a couple more plays than people realize. It's just some unlucky bounces going against Pittsburgh.
All right. Anything else from the coordinators? I really enjoyed it. I wish they let those guys talk more, and I probably understand why they don't let them.
Yeah, the fact of what they said this weekend probably illustrates why they don't talk much, because they say too many honest and important things.
All right. What else is on your mind?
Not that I want to spend a lot of time thinking or talking about it, but the big post of the day is Ryan Clark with some comments on Mike Tomlin. And for whatever reason, not just Clark, but over the past week or so, a lot of analysts and media type guys are talking about how college teams should go after Mike Tomlin. I think Doug Whaley said something similar to that, and I think maybe Albert Breer made a comment about it as well. And so Ryan Clark said that he would basically give Mike Tomlin a blank check to come to LSU if he was running LSU to replace Coach O, and that he would love to see Mike Tomlin be the next head coach of the Tigers.
All right, let's quantify this. That there's no substantial reports out there that LSU is looking at Mike Tomlin. This seems to just be a byproduct of Coach O. The news coming out that he wasn't going to be back at LSU. Obviously, Ryan Clark, huge, out of that program, and Ryan Clark gets amplified. Things he say, especially Steelers related, gets amplified quite a bit. Whaley being on the radio and obviously being part of the Steelers organization at one time, and his kind of take on it, which once again he wasn't saying that there's any connection there that it would happen. It's just those kind of guys are way up on the food chain, and anytime you add the Steelers into that food chain, it's going to get amplified even more. And then that's why you had Ryan Clark on in ESPN and radio in, I think it was Alexandria or somewhere down that way in Louisiana, being asked about it, and that's where that quote came from. Now, would Mike Tomlin be a hell of a college football coach?
He'd be one of the best college football coaches in football, man. I think he'd be awesome at it. Like, he'd be right behind Nick Saban. I think he would excel in terms of the recruitment, being around the players, creating a great culture and things like that. I think he would be excellent. But to be very clear here up front, this is not going to happen. This is all just fodder from Clark and from the other media types. This is not remotely going to happen. But I think hypothetically, if it would, he would just kill it as a college coach.
I thought the same exact thing as this thing's kind of moved along in the last 3 or 4 days. I don't know when it originally surfaced there, to kind of banter about it and all. But I thought, man, can you imagine that guy going into living rooms, and
every single recruit would come play for him.
I mean, he would the way these Florida teams aren't doing well recruiting right now, because of the Gators and the Seminoles aren't the Gators and the Seminoles, or Miami for that. 20 years ago, Alex, that was a thing. It was Miami, Florida State.
Yeah.
That and really even further back than that, those programs are shells of themselves right now. And Auburn's kind of dropped out. Every year it used to be Auburn, Alabama type thing. Well, Auburn's fell way behind now in that. Georgia's always been kind of the stepsister in there along the lines on top of it. Just good enough, but can't get over the hump there. You take someone like Mike Tomlin, you throw him down in the SEC, especially a program like LSU, that guy would crush it. I mean, I think he'd make Nick Saban think about maybe going back to the pros. You know, that kind of thing there. He would crush it. Now, unless Mike Tomlin just woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'd like to try my hand at this college thing, and I could probably make probably substantial more amount of money, you know?
Yeah, a lot more money. College coach teams will just write you blank checks. The money they pay out is even pales in the comparison to the NFL in some respects.
You know, and basically, you know, there's no draft involved. It's just your credibility and you and the program that you're at. It's going to get you the star athletes to work with there on top of it. I think he would absolutely kill it. Now, do I think there's anything to this? Personally, no, I don't. At least not right now. Once again, unless Mike Tomlin just woke up one morning and said, you know, I've done this. But Mike Tomlin has said many a times over the year how much he loves the teaching aspect of what he does. You know,
Mm-hmm.
So that if there would be any reason why I think it would be plausible down the road that he'd end up in college, I think that would be it. The guy just loves football, loves teaching and all. I don't think there's any fire around. Well, I think that smoke's just media created right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, Tomlin signed the extension through 2024, so they just locked him up here. Maybe if he hadn't been under that extension, you could argue it a little bit more plausibly. But he just got the extension. He's a competitor. He wants to be around the best in football, and he's won a Super Bowl. He probably wants to chase that again. And the other thing to consider is that, you know, talking about he wants the LSU job, or he should take the USC job. He's got kids out east. He's got a kid at Maryland, a kid at Columbia, so he probably doesn't want to move to LSU or, you know, Louisiana, or go out west to California and be that far away from his kids. So I think that's a factor as well.
Right. I think maybe after this current contract ends, maybe, and, you know, his kids are out of school and all like that, you know, it becomes a lot more plausible of that. I got to admit, I'd be there to see it, you know. And I mean that by I would pay attention to Mike Tomlin coaching at the college level. Not that I'm rooting for that kind of stuff or whatnot, but I think it would be quite interesting to see happen. I'll put it to you that way.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be really successful. But he's got roots down in Pittsburgh. I think he has no intentions of leaving contractually. You know, just based on his own family life and things like that. So yeah, it's not going to happen. But if it ever did, he would become, I think, one of the top coaches in college football. It would be sought after by every team with an opening, NFL or college.
Right.
So that was Ryan Clark's there. And I'd just like to comment here. This is the quote from Ryan Clark. Quote, "But if Mike Tomlin wants this job, I would make an offer to him that would truly make him disrespectful to Lord Jesus Christ to turn down." So that's a very money quote there from Ryan Clark.
Yeah, he goes in that same interview. He said, "I'd make the offer so big that turning it down would be the equivalent of spitting in the face of like a priest, a rabbi, a nun." I forget him. He named off a lot of religious entities, if you will, there on top of it. So Ryan Clark really would like to see Mike Tomlin at LSU, but I think that's where it ends.
Yeah, that's where it starts and that's where it ends. So anything else, Dave, you want to talk about, or do you want to start getting into – actually, you have our sponsor, MyBookie, we can talk about before we make our Week 7 picks.
All right, did we leave anything else on the table there or no?
I don't think so. I think that covers it pretty well.
All right, MyBookie, when it comes to gambling, you always want to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, and that's why I always bet with MyBookie. At MyBookie, you can bet on all your favorite sports with exclusive promotions, contests, and more to find your winning bet. Right now, when you make your first deposit with MyBookie, you'll instantly receive double your first deposit. It's easy. All you have to do is go to mybookie.ag, sign up, and use promo code TERRIBLE, and MyBookie will double your first deposit instantly up to $1,000. How's that for fast money? Use your extra funds to bet this week biggest games, including the battle between the Chiefs and the Titans, where airmail offense takes on smash mouth football. Look for the score to run up quickly. Bet the over. This promotion is available for a limited time, so don't miss out. Head to mybookie.ag and use promo code TERRIBLE and secure your double deposit bonus today. That's promo code TERRIBLE so you can double your funds to double your winnings. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with mybookie.ag. What do you think about that Pitt Clemson game coming up this weekend? You gonna be there for that? You gonna be there to watch it? I mean,
no, I'm not gonna be there, but I'll watch it. Yeah, it'll be a good game. I think Pitt's gonna win this one. Clemson's definitely reeling, trying to find their quarterback, find their footing. Post Trevor Lawrence and Kenny Pickett. I mean, this guy could he be the first quarterback drafted this year? I don't know. I mean, it's an open field and he's playing as well as anybody. So kudos to him.
This is a big game for him, I think. I mean, the buzz is fever pitch with Kenny Pickett right now, and obviously this game is going to be talked about quite a bit, I think, and it has been, and will more heading on into Saturday there. So yeah, I'll definitely have that one on the TV tomorrow.
All right, Dave, let's make our Week 7 picks.
All right, we both went, finally can say on a Friday that we were 1-0 on a Thursday. We both had the Browns minus the 1.5 last night against Denver there, so we both cashed in there. Moving forward, mybookie.ag has Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens laying 6.5 at home against the Bengals.
It's a fairly big line. But I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. I think, it might be close for the first half or something like that, but Baltimore pulls away in the second half.
Just don't let Jamar Chase run past you on the outside, and I think you might be fine in this one there when it comes to the Ravens. Give me the Ravens. I'll lay the 6.5 points with you. Carolina Panthers on the road against the New York Giants. I know you'll have your VCR set for this one, Alex. Carolina Panthers at New York Giants. Giants +3 at home against the Panthers.
Give me the asteroid. That's what I'd prefer in this one. What's the line? Giants 3.5?
Giants +3. They're the underdog here.
Man. I don't know. Give me the Giants.
I got a funny feeling about this as well, too. Give me the Giants. I don't know if they win this, but maybe it's like a 1 or 2 point game. I'll take the Giants +3 points.
Actually, you know what? I'm switching. I'm going Carolina. They have a better defense. Their defensive scheme's been pretty strong this season, so I'm flipping to Carolina.
All right, so Alex is taking the Panthers -3. I'll take the Giants +3. Washington football team at the Green Bay Packers. Packers 7.5 road favorites at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, give me the Pack in this one.
Think about this one. Yeah, I smell a rat somewhere in here. Maybe that Washington defense can get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. I think Packers win this, but I think Washington covers. So give me the 7.5 points there. Kansas City Chiefs against the Derrick Henrys. Titans at home +4.5.
Man, do I want to go with the Titans in this one? Just with how good that running game has obviously been. I don't know. If they had a more potent passing game, which has really been where KC struggled, I would be more tempted to take Tennessee, but I'm going to go KC by touchdown.
I will as well, too there. Boy, Tyreek Hill, that guy can make some plays, and I think they get it. I think they put up some points this week. Give me the Chiefs lay to 4.5 on the road. Falcons on the road against the Miami Dolphins here. Dolphins, boy, are they going to get what is there anything, you think there's anything to that Watson to Miami thing?
I think there's smoke, but not nearly the fire that the Houston media made it out to be 48 hours ago.
It'd be interesting to see if anything comes of that before the trade deadline. Dolphins +2.5 against the Falcons at home.
Yeah, give me Miami in this one. I think they pull it off.
I think the Falcons win big in this one. I'll lay the 2.5 on that one. New York Jets on the road against the New England Patriots. The Patriots laying 7 against the Jets.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots.
I will too. Belichick will confuse that kid, I think. I'll lay the 7 points there, Patriots over the Jets. Detroit Lions. It's the Golf Stafford game, right?
Yeah, they're playing the Rams?
Yeah. Rams hosting the Lions. 16 points.
Oof. It's a big, big line. Man, I think if Detroit at least keeps it close, I think the Rams are going to win this one. But just much better team, much better quarterback play overall. But Lions will cover.
Man, that's a huge line, isn't it? Give me the Rams lay to 16. I'll lay it. I'll lay it. I'll lay it. Eagles out here in Las Vegas to play the Raiders. Raiders -3 at home.
Yeah, Raiders showed some fight despite all the turmoil going on with their organization. And if the Eagles ever wanted to run the football, maybe they'd have a better chance to win some games. But give me the Raiders.
Well, that pass rush is good of theirs right now. Give me the Raiders lay to 3 at home. Chicago Bears on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Nagy clock is ticking here. Buccaneers laying 12.5 at home. Another big number.
Yeah, it might be the first coach getting fired as Matt Nagy's feeling like he's been in the hot seat for quite some time. Give me the Bucs.
I'll take the Buccaneers, and I'll lay the 12.5 as well, too. You want to talk about a big number? Got a bigger one here from mybookie.ag on this next game. Houston Texans on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. You think J.J. Watt looking to make a play or two in this game here? Cardinals laying 17.5 at home against the Texans.
Not a lot of great games for Week 7, honestly. That's just a big number. It's just hard to justify. I'm going to say the Texans cover, barely, but they cover.
I'm going to take the car. I'm in the mood of laying some lumber this week. I'll lay the lumber here, -17.5. I'll lay that big number there. Colts on the road against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers laying 4 at home against the Colts. And T.Y. Hilton can't stay healthy, I don't think.
And they just lost Paris Campbell for maybe the season. He's undergoing surgery. Give me the 49ers.
I'm with you. That sounds like a stone cold lock of the century of the week of the year right there. -4 San Francisco over the Colts. New Orleans Saints at the Seattle Seahawks. Boy, I don't know what to think of this one. Seahawks +4.5 at home against the Saints.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I give Seattle credit for showing their fight without their quarterback and running back.
And the Saints have been kind of they've been having some problems offensively as well.
Yeah, well, that's a Jameis Winston experience. Give me Seattle. I don't know. Give me Seattle.
You know what? Yeah, give me Seattle plus the 4.5 points. I think Seattle wins this outright. The money line on this is +190. If any of you are interested at mybookie.ag there. So, all right, that's got it. Obviously, no Steelers game to pick. A lot of eyes, I think, as far as our listeners go, will probably be tuning in that Ravens Bengals game there. What else is another game that you might pay attention to on Sunday?
Yeah, the Ravens-Bengals is the big one, to be honest with you.
Not anything else, is there?
No, it's not a great slate of games this week, unfortunately.
All right, where else?
I think we need to get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's do it here. How far along are we into this thing now, Alex?
Hour 10.
Hour 10. JJ writes in, hey guys, it's JJ from Lexington. Was listening to the Fantasy IDP podcast that they were talking that Splain has a better tackle to snap ratio than our starters. Is Robert a better between the tackles linebacker? I know he doesn't have the speed to or coverage ability than Bush and Schobert, but does seem he has a better stat line when he plays. What's your opinion on this? Thanks for giving true Steeler fans the coverage and podcast we love. Best in the business. Thank you, JJ from Lexington.
Well, I mean, that's the fantasy football world, the IDP world, so the tackles alone doesn't necessarily tell you who's the better player, obviously. I think Splain's a more aggressive player, a more downhill player than Devin Bush, for example. And I think Chris Hogan, I can understand this argument, was saying that Splain's a better run defender than Devin Bush. I think in terms of the downhill runs, he's better laterally on the edge. On more perimeter runs, I think Bush is better. So just different styles and where they excel in the run game. But short answer, I mean, that's from a different scope and different lens that you're listening to, obviously, through the IDP, the fantasy football world. And so, I don't know. I think Spillane in some respects is better against the run in that downhill style, but that's the extent that I would go.
I would agree with you there. Harrison Williams writes in, hey guys, new to the show. You guys are awesome. Well, Harrison, thanks for finding us and tuning in. Hopefully you'll continue to tune in. He says, just a question about next season. What do you guys think the quarterback situation is going to be next year? Draft one, ? Or get a guy like Rodgers, ? Thanks again. Love the show.
I mean, those are two two extremes. To hear Jay Glazer tell it, according to Mike Tomlin, that Tomlin does not want a rookie. So if they draft somebody, the plan would sound like it would not be to start that guy. My guess it'll be a veteran, but not an Aaron Rodgers caliber. It'll either be Roland Mason Rudolph or some other veteran they sign. Maybe they draft somebody and try to keep him on the bench and let him learn. A la the plan for Ben in 04, although obviously that did not happen in reality. But I think it'll be Mason or another veteran type of quarterback.
Harrison, I've scratched the surface just a tiny bit on this year's quarterback class and all like that. Haven't gone deep into it, no. But from what I see out there and just kind of trusting Jay Glazer, talking about Mike Tomlin not necessarily wanting to start all over with a rookie quarterback. You throw all this stuff together. I tend to think I'm alone with Alex. I will be shocked if I've said this. I'll be shocked if it's Aaron Rodgers. Could it be a Russell Wilson? I wish we would have been able to spend more time, with our Seahawks beat writer the other day to talk more about that. We'll get him back on the show at a later date. There, I don't think so, but I think it will be Rudolph or one of those lower priced free agent quarterbacks this year. If the Steelers do draft a quarterback this year or in 2022, I don't think it'll be in the first round. And Alex will flip if they draft one after the first round, I think.
Yeah, even if it is a first-round guy, the plan would not be for that guy to start, I would suspect.
Right. So I will say it'll be Mason Rudolph and like that middle field of veteran free agent quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, name I'm going to keep talking about. And with Rodgers, what are the odds he gets traded at all? He seems pretty happy in Green Bay right now. Obviously they're playing well, and he seems to be happy with the organization. And so, the odds of him getting traded anywhere to Denver, to the 49ers, those odds might be dwindling based on how the season has gone so far for Green Bay.
Chris Warren writes in, hey, fellas, having a bird's eye view at a couple of Steelers games recently, Green Bay away, home versus Seahawks. I agree with your assessment. Like, we do not have a wide receiver that can blow the top off and consistently get separation down the field. Be careful, Chris. The Claypool haters will come after you here. If we were going to pursue a trade, what about Will Fuller? He could be ready to return as early as week 8, and the Dolphins aren't likely to make the playoff run. Would they be willing to deal, and would we be willing to part with the draft capital required to land a serious deep threat? Look, I put that out there and have it running out there that this team needs, is missing that Mike Wallace, Martavis Bryant guy. However, unless there's an injury or two that happens here, I don't expect them to deal for a guy like that. And even if you did, how tough is it to bring in a guy middle of the season, and especially if he's more of a specialty guy, stretch the field, how tough is he to integrate into your offense? And every time if you don't play him every snap, then it becomes a situation where here comes Will Fuller on the field. Mm-hmm. Don't let him step on your toes. But you don't get beat deep. It becomes that situation. What I said or my belief on it sounds great in theory. It's just the practicality that's involved in it. Unless there's injuries to happen, I just don't see happening.
Yeah, but if it is that big of a thing this offense needs, then I would be all for trying to address it this season. But the question is, what draft capital do you have to give up? You're getting pretty limited in terms of what you can offer a team. And even if that red light goes off with that guy, I mean, you can use that to your advantage because you know how defenses are going to play you when that guy's on the field. So you might be able to do something different off of that because the defense is playing too high, or they're bracketing, or they're playing off coverage, or something like that against Will Fuller. So I think it's a good name to suggest. I also threw out there Albert Wilson from Miami as well, kind of a more slotty type of guy, a little bit shorter, but a big play speed type of guy. Someone mentioned to me John Ross, which I'm not as enthused about, but I get the fit there. But yeah, it's a question just as like, what draft capital do you have to part with at this point?
From where this team sits right now, though, from a practicality and overall health standpoint, yeah, they lost Juju, but you don't expect this team to bring in a burner, right?
No, I don't. I mean, it's easy to say that about will they bring in
Right.
anybody? And the odds are probably pretty low. But I mean, you feel really strongly this team needs to have that kind of guy.
I do,
right?
yeah, and
Right.
I think it should be a draft. I think it'll be a first, second, or third round priority in the draft next year too.
Right. But if you're sitting there right now, if you're Mike Tomlin or Kevin Colbert, and you have that thought, then you're going to deal with the ills of trying to integrate that guy in your offense because you feel like you need that guy so bad, and there's probably more good than bad by getting that guy into your offense, into your scheme.
I mean, I'd be on board with it if they went and did it. I just don't think that it fits what they would do.
Sure. No, I understand that.
Nick Scioli writes in, David Alex, I'm wondering as of right now what you guys think Minka Fitzpatrick's future with the Steelers looks like. This year his normal splash plays haven't arrived yet. I know the past 2 years he's been an all-pro, one of my favorites on the team. I think the Steelers would sign him to an extension. He says, I think the Steelers would sign him to an extension this coming off season. My girlfriend has been dropping hints that she wants his jersey for Christmas, so I'm hoping he's around for a while. Man, until they lock him up, I think they do lock him up. I mean, they obviously put the fifth-year option on him, and this team, in doing so, the logical thought, barring a serious injury in these remaining games this season, is that they will sign Minka Fitzpatrick to a contract that'll probably make him either the top or the second highest paid safety in the league. So it's a bit of a gamble there, but if you make it to Christmas and he's still healthy, that's probably a pretty decent bet there when it comes to buying his jersey there. As far as the playmaking goes, I thought Austin, we didn't address this, but Austin kind of addressed that during his press conference. There's been a couple balls that Minka's had his hands on that he hasn't caught that I know Minka probably wants back there, They are moving him. They're asking him to do less now than they were at the start of the season because they have a better grasp now on what Arthur Millette and Trey Norwood could do. So that will get Minka back in a more comfortable tied to the post type role, if you will, on that. I'm not worried about him right now.
Yeah, I'm not either. Like I said, I mean, he had that.
I'm more worried about Devin Bush, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'd be more worried about Bush than Minka. Minka's going to be here for the long term. They're going to lock him up probably this upcoming summer. So maybe, yeah, I think Christmas is a good time to buy that jersey. But yeah, I'm not. He's not playing as good as he has, obviously. But I'm not as concerned about him as I think some of the national media might be.
Not all pro this season yet. I mean, we're only 6 games in, but a couple 5 interceptions will change that in a hurry, and he's the guy that can do that stuff. So
yeah, it is the longest turnover-less streak drought of his career, college or pro. So it's 13 straight games. So I think that will end sooner than later. But yeah, you need those splash plays to get that kind of resume.
Richard Jameson writes in, on your Monday podcast, you asked that I remind you of a question after you complete the charting. It deals with whether the Steelers offense would be stronger if the quarterback took more snaps under center and fewer snaps from the shotgun. During the 2 Steelers touchdowns in the second quarter, Ben Roethlisberger seemed to take a much higher percentage of snaps under center. Both the running game and passing game seemed to click. They seem to abandon it for the rest of the game. Is this also correct? If so, why would the Steelers abandon what seemed to be working? Let me see if I can pull the shotgun snaps here.
Yeah, you'd have to just look at some of the details on that. I mean, I couldn't give you a great answer for why some of that changes. Some of that's circumstantial. If you're not running the ball quite as effectively, if you're just getting some more negativity, then it might, change up your game plan a little bit. I don't know. We have to delve into that charting though to see some of the exact what the percentage.
I mean, they used a shotgun a lot. At least in the play-by-play listing here. Yeah. Hold on here. I'll tell you the total, and this includes no plays. 60. How many snaps did they run in total against the Seahawks?
I'm not sure. That charting would have to tell you that.
Let me see here. Oh, let me unfilter then real quick here, and I'll get you the total for that as well. Once again, our charting comes courtesy. Our offensive charting comes courtesy of the great Tom Mead.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tom, for doing all.
76.
Okay, 76 snaps.
Right.
Okay. And the percentage of non-shotgun under center plays, can you pull that quickly? We'll let you do that.
Let me see. Let's look at the plays that they didn't have shotgun in and see what maybe he's talking about. Let's see. Does not contain shotgun against the Seahawks. I'm seeing a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, like 16 plays, with one of those being a kneel down in there. So effectively like 15 plays.
And one was Ben's like flop, so 14.
Okay. They did have the 25-yard jet sweep run in there. They had the touchdown. They had the left end Najee for 12-yard, or no, the pass short left to. That was the one where Ben checked it down over to that left side, and Najee had all that green grass around him on that. So that was kind of more of a check down than anything else there. I know a couple of those were those fake jet sweeps, right?
Yeah, the one to Ebron for the touchdown. They faked it earlier in the game to Ebron.
And I think they had one other one in there as well, too, there. So, look, unless they start using more heavier personnel groupings, I think, you're probably not going to see Ben. I mean, that was probably a high percentage for Ben overall under center in that game.
Yeah, they're still going to be a shotgun-based team. That's where most of the league is at, but they're at around 20% under center in that game. That's a good number, I think, for this team to be.
And it looks like most of these under center snaps came in the first half. I'm showing one at 12:52 in the fourth quarter, and two in overtime, and both of those were the flop downs.
Yeah, so that's a point there. Yeah, why didn't they do it more in the second half, I guess, is something worth asking. I don't have a great answer for that.
All right, Richard, thank you for sending that back in there. Sim Football Critic writes in, what's up, fellas? I'm late writing this email, so if you don't get this today, Wednesday, hopefully you'll get to it on Friday. Simple question. How are you feeling about Cam Sutton's play so far this season? Where has he been at inside or outside? As always, thanks for the outstanding coverage. I, for one, value and respect your opinion. Take care. Thanks for the email, Sim. Thoughts on Cameron Sutton, where he's been playing, how he's been playing?
Yeah, I think he's played well. I still don't think he's quite as good as Steven Nelson was in terms of man coverage. But I mean, it's been kind of as expected for me in regards to Cam Sutton. Let me try to pull up based on my charting here. The variety of snaps. He's played all over this year, obviously this season. So just give me a second here while I kind of go through my charting. I always forget to take the filters off, and so I have to restart every single time. Cam Sutton has played, according to my charting, 312 snaps this season. Of course, missed that one game. He's played right cornerback, 223 snaps. He's played nickel, 32 snaps. He's played as a dime player, 51 snaps, and I have him down for a couple of random strong safety snaps, 6 of them. Those all came against the Bengals. So primarily right corner, which is what he was, signed to do, to replace Steven Nelson, but is still getting interior work to some degree, especially in dime packages this season.
All right, we got through them. You getting that Porsche this weekend?
I'm not getting that Porsche this weekend or any weekend.
What else you got going on this weekend?
I have no idea. Hanging out, watching some football, and what are you doing? What are Dave Bryan's bye week?
After I do that damn Walmart thing later on this afternoon, I'm going to...
Walmart. It's fine. You really not like going to Walmart? You don't like
Man, I hate leaving the damn house now, man, unless it's going to a casino. That's it. Take me to the casino.
Are you going to the casino this weekend? Go to the casino.
I might at midnight tonight. I might. It depends on. I don't know. I might go to South Point and go see if I can get uninterrupted at a table tonight there. But outside of that, I will be white. I got the best job in the world, except maybe next to you. But because you get to work with me, so that makes your that makes your job better. But there's going to be a lot of football watching going on with me this weekend. Tease your terrible take. How's that for a tongue twister?
What did I talk about? The tease today is I've gotten a lot of questions about what I would do with this offensive line was that Bama getting back healthy, Joe Haig being in the mix, et cetera, et cetera. So I answered the question of how I would handle and what changes I would make with this offensive line going forward.
All right. Also, look, get on iTunes and rip this podcast to shreds or praise it, if you will. Get to SteelersDepot.com. A lot of great content out there. Tyler Wise, that weekly segment that he does, Turning Points, is absolutely fantastic. It's a quick read. Got some good video in there as well too. We got some great stats info up there as well too from this past week. Just everybody doing a lot of great work during the bye week here, and we appreciate them. Hope you get by SteelersDepot.com and say hi to us. We'll have some game threads running on Sunday to discuss the early afternoon games on top of it there. So within all of that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, and for $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. All right, Alex, you and I will be back on Monday to recap what happened. College football and pro football over the weekend and all, so probably going to have a good hour show there. We'll start getting people ready for the Browns-Steelers week next week from Sunday as well, too. How big a game is that for the Steelers?
It's going to be pretty big for sure. Just in principle with the last game, the way it went in the wildcard game, but just for the Steelers to go 4-3 to be an AFC North team, I don't want to say it's must win, but it's pretty substantial.
All right, stay safe, everybody. Peace and love. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.